Hi, welcome to Drinks Coach, a very special edition of Drinks Coach from VIDA Wines, who have supplied me with some wonderful drinks to explain something that I should have explained 2 years ago. This is one of the most important concepts in fine winemaking, and it is the concept of biodynamism. Yeah, what's that, I hear you say? Well, it's kind of like organic, only much more extreme. A guy called Rudolf Steiner at the turn of the last century, around 1860 to 1920 something, came up with this idea that some soils, because of pesticides and everything, die. And by damaging the soil, we damage everything else in the ecosystem. So he developed a way of revitalising the soil. Now, that in and of itself doesn't sound very interesting. But if you think about all those expensive wines that are made in France, like Bordeaux, Burgundy, huge production of wines, trillions of litres of wine over the years. During the 50s and 60s, after the war, people used pesticides, herbicides, just to make their life easier as farmers until the soil basically became dead. It was like concrete. There was nothing in it. No flowers, no worms, no flies. It was just like concrete. And people just thought, well, that's it. We've ruined the soil. But using methods that Rudolf Steiner had developed, they brought the soil back to life. The vines dug 3 times deeper. They got much more nascent minerality from the soil, lots of oxygen through the roots. Worms started coming back. Flora came back, fauna came back, and then he ended up with a much, much healthier vineyard. And there was a palpable increase in the quality and the character of the wine. So this is seen as like the last step in the process of trying to make wine better. And wine making is all about marginal gains. It's very easy to make a wine twice as good if it starts off really bad. But if you're making a wine as well as you can, biodynamism could give you that extra 1 or 2%. So, what does it do to the taste of the wine? I mean, what is actually going on? Well, I've got 5 wines here to show you, 3 from Austria and 3 from Slovakia. VIDA, vidawines.co.uk, specialise in that kind of final King Solomon's mines of wine in the world that we don't really know much about. But there's so many good wines out there, such great stuff. So we're looking at places like Slovakia, we're looking at Romania, we're looking at Bulgaria, we're looking at Turkey. These are like the last undiscovered wine regions, in terms of the wines that we drink in this country anyway. So let's have a look at what these wines taste like, and then I'll try and explain what's biodynamic about them. So first one, this is Welch Riesling Rechnitz Straka from the Burgenland in Austria. So if Austria is this, if that's Austria, right? Burgenland, that's Vienna's up here, Innsbruck's down here. This is like mountain ranges, it's like the Tyrol Alps. Burgenland is south and towards Hungary. It's a very, very warm part of Austria, and that's actually a region that's probably better known for red wines than whites. The great variety we've got here is called Welch Riesling. I don't think I've actually featured a Welch Riesling on any of my drinks coaches yet. But what is Welch Riesling? Welch Riesling literally means in German fake Riesling, which is appropriate really because it's not Riesling at all. In fact, Riesling was kind of a moniker that was made by mistake. It originates in Croatia, where it's very, very popular, and there's a great variety called Krašvina. Krašvina is also known in Slovenia as Laški or Lasky Riesling, something that we used to drink an awful lot of in this country in the 70s. It's also known as Riesling Italico. It's got countless names. But the name gives you an indication of the kind of wine you get. It's a bit like Riesling, so it means it's very fruity, tense, it's got some tight minerality to it, a bit racy, good acidity. It's just a little bit more, I think a little bit more textured, a bit richer, a little less fine than noble Riesling, but it's capable of making very good wines wherever it's grown. So this is 2019, which is a very warm year in this part of Europe. Let's have a little crack at this. Nice colour, you can see some colour, so the grapes probably came in nice and ripe. Right, the nose. The nose is very peachy, it's got an apricot-y note to it. What you do notice, this is something about biodynamic wines, is it's not really focused on one smell. It doesn't smell like, take something like a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, for example. Sometimes you pick up a bottle of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from the supermarket shelf, you go home, you open it, pour it in a glass in front of Pointless, or whatever it is you're watching on a Friday night, and it smells purely of passion fruit or purely of elderflower. That's because they're using specific aromatic strains of yeast to get the best out of the aroma of the wine, because the smells are the thing that really matters with Sauvignon Blanc. With biodynamism, you can't muck around like that. It has to be what we call spontaneous ferment. It's fermented in the wild. The tanks are just left open, and then the odd bird might fly over the top and do its business on a roof, a spider might crawl into the vat, and that's how the yeast in the air gets into the wine. Now the difference is that we're not using one yeast, because in the air there are literally tens of thousands of different kinds of yeast. So what you've got here is 20,000 possibly different chemical reactions going on at the same time, rather than just one. So with biodynamic wines, we find there's a massive increase in texture, complexity, roundness, mouthfeel, but what your trade-off is, it doesn't smell very pure. In fact, it smells, let's say it smells like lots of instruments rather than one instrument. There's kind of a cacophony. There's always a background sound to biodynamic wines. So let's have a taste. Lovely texture, great acidity. Again, it feels like there's more going on. It's like the buzz of a bistro rather than somebody just pouring your backside off sitting next to you in a pub. So that's a really, really nice Welch Riesling. In fact, this is a classic case of a wine I wouldn't normally buy, but because it's biodynamic, it's far more interesting than usual. And I think that's a rather lovely wine. And this wine, I think, retails for, at VIDAwines.co.uk, £16.49, which I think is very, very fair. There's a lot of work that goes into making these wines. You can't use mechanics. You have to use horses to plough the fields. I'm not joking. The wines are only blended during a new moon because full moon creates a bigger magnetism and turbidity in the wine, which causes a little bit of shock, apparently, when you mix it. So that's the level of detail they go to. It's almost witchcraft. Right, next one. Niederösterreich. So we're still in Austria. This is Austria again. That's Vienna, as I said before. That's Innsbruck down here in the Tyrol. Above Vienna, to the northeast, is Niederösterreich, which is like the big garden of Austria. It's kind of like the Kent of Austria, let's call it that. This wine is actually called Kirchel Directory 508. It just rattles off the tongue, this one. It's such a catchy name. Having said that, it's very cool. This is a white blend from 2018. 2018 was a very, very good vintage in Slovenia and Hungary, so I can only assume it was pretty good in Austria as well. Very, very ripe, very rich, concentrated wines. And this wine's made from Pinot Blanc, one of my favourite grape varieties, Riesling, the real McCoy this time, and Austria's very own Grüner Veltliner, which I've covered on 3 or 4 occasions. I know it sounds like a dog, but it tastes like an angel. Okay, so we've got Pinot Blanc, Riesling, Grüner Veltliner. And it says Kirchel 508 is a composition by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, yes? The Kirchel Directory is the directory that Mozart's wife set up when he died to catalogue every single piece of music that he'd written. And then she became very wealthy, basically patenting and trademarking his music. So, we've got a blend of 3 interesting varieties. We're going biodynamic again. If you look at the colour, it's very, very pale. Kind of a silvery green colour, I guess. It's the kind of colour I'd expect, actually. It looks right. Good start. Not fuzzy or hazy or anything. Ooh, I like that one. Oh, that's really good. It actually reminds me, I don't know if you remember as a child, in England, if you're watching in England, the fruit salad sweet. You used to be able to buy 3 for a penny, then it was 2 for a penny, then they were a penny, then they were 2p each. I mean, I'm just showing my age, right? But this one has a lovely fruit salad nose. It smells of fresh citrus, guava juice. It's kind of umbongo for grown-ups, right? Okay. Lovely acidity again. And then you can feel the biodynamism factor kicking in again. It's got amazing mouthfeel. Underneath all that fruit, there's almost a sensation of gravel, like you've got pebbles in your mouth. It's stony. Stony and mouthwatering. Very, very cool wine with food, I imagine. That'd be brilliant. Certainly with fatty foods, things like Austrian Speck, which is like smoked, cured ham. Be lovely with fish. Traditionally in this part of the world, you've got a lot of very, very meaty, delicious wild lake trout. Delicious with that. Blimey, this is a good start. I've just got to let you know that biodynamic wines can be a bit of an acquired taste to some people. Because you're not allowed to control the wine, you just get what you end up with. If you imagine that all wine was made the same way that all cheese was made, you just put your curds in a thing and then just leave it in a shed for a few months, and then what comes out, is cheese. And you don't have any control over it. And biodynamism is the same. There are risks involved. You're taking risks that if the weather's really, really bad, there's nothing you can do about it. You might even have to write off a vintage. But on the positive side, when it's good, it literally made itself. And it's super complex. Right, on to this wine. This is from Slovakia. Apart from also being biodynamic, this says on the back, skin contact, which I'll explain to you. This is Biosari 2019, and this is a Chardonnay Riesling. Now, you wouldn't see that normally anywhere else. I don't think I've ever had a blend of Riesling and Chardonnay before, so this is quite interesting. Skin contact? Well, when you're making white wine, you get grapes, red or white, and you squish them. Because it doesn't matter whether the skin's red or the skin's white. When you squish it, the juice inside is always white, almost always. Certainly in good winemaking grapes it is. So you end up with a white wine, which is then fermented. Now what they've done here is they put the skins in while it's fermenting, which is called skin contact or skin ferment. So what they're doing is they're making a white wine the way you make red wine. Because in order to make red wine red, you have to ferment it with the skins in, otherwise it stays white, right? Okay, so immediately you can see the colour. It's got a lovely kind of almost suede beige to it, which is a sign that it's had skins in there, the oils from the skin, the tannins, all those complex flavours that you get from the skin itself have gone into the wine and then oxidised slightly, hence the colour. It's a bit darker. And we now describe this style of wine, white wine made like a red wine, as orange wine. And that's an obvious reason why. Nose? If you had your eyes shut, it would be very hard to say with any exactness whether this wine was red, white or rosé, which is really interesting. Because it's got the skins in, when you close your eyes, there are certain feral, funky, spicy notes that you only really find in red wine, but they're here in a white. Again, that's a really, really good orange wine. It's whistle clean, there's no funk, very, very pure. It's got a lovely, almost persimmon, almost tomatoey. It's got this wonderful, it's a line between vegetality and fruit, but it's delicious. Imagine a fruit salad with some, I don't know, with some yellow tomatoes thrown in just for fun. It's that kind of thing. Very, very nice. Also, because it's been aged on its skins and fermented on its skins, it has tannin, like red wine. Tannin is that furry tightness you get in young red wine, which kind of sucks the moisture out of your mouth, which is a vital component in matching with food. This wine could go probably where a lot of white wines would fear to tread. It would be lovely with like a really slow-cooked roast pork belly. Be lovely with some really, really fatty fish or some seafood. I imagine this would be lovely with caramelised scallops. I make myself feeling very hungry right now. Okay, so 3 out of 3, fantastic. This wine tastes more expensive. Shall we have a look? It's not. In fact, this is £16.50. This one was just under £20, which I think is bang on the money for that. This one's £16.69. If you bought an orange wine from the UK, from English grapes, you'd be paying £5 more than that. So this wine has come a lot further and is offering more bang for your buck. I think it's absolutely delicious. And who knew? I don't drink very many Slovakian wines. That's a very, very good advert for what they're capable of. Fantastic. Right, moving on. This is the same dude. This is Matthias Authentista again, Bio Sommelier from Slovakia. It's a year older, yeah, that's right. And it's made from 3 grape varieties, only one of which I've ever heard of before. We've got Pinot Noir. Yeah, we've heard of that one. Frankowska Modra and Dunaj. He says with bated breath. Nice colour. Okay, so this is our first biodynamic red. Red biodynamism, I think, is probably more common than white biodynamism, partly because with that extra added component of texture and mouthfeel and richness, it makes erstwhile reds, which are very dry and very tannic when they're young, taste really creamy and velvety. There is also kind of an unwritten rule that if you're going to go super organic and go biodynamic, you're almost using no sulphur, if any at all. Sans sulfite ajouté, as they say in France. Let's have a little sniff. Well, it definitely doesn't smell like Pinot Noir, not any Pinot Noir I've tasted recently, and it's obvious that there's 2 other varieties which are adding to this kind of pot of joy. It's more blackcurranty, got a subtle tarriness to it. A hint of leather, which is that kind of slightly naturally, if you like biodynamic wines, you're going to love it. If you don't, then it's your choice. There's three perfectly delicious white wines here to try. But there you go. As soon as it hits your mouth, it's creamy, it's soft, it's juicy, it's really pliable. It doesn't fight with you when you put it in the mouth. There's something altogether fresh about it. Wow, there you go. 2 Slovakian wines first thing in the morning. Lovely. Delicious wines and very, very impressive indeed. Look forward to seeing more from them. The end wine. This wine is called Zweigelt, yes, Johannes Trapel from Austria. Okay, so this is handcrafted Löwenwässchen bio wine from Österreich. If you look at the back, it has the word Demeter written on it. Demeter is the International Standards Association, which makes sure that if you say you're biodynamic, you're actually biodynamic. They come around and check. It's taken very, very seriously. Zweigelt's a lovely thing. Some people like it more than others. I like it more than most. But there are 2 grape varieties in Germany that are really, really popular red grape varieties. One's called Blaufränkisch and one's called Saint Laurent. Blaufränkisch is dark, chocolatey, also known as Kek Frankosch in Hungary. You've seen some on this show, but they make wonderful steak wines, really inky, rich, juicy, you know, a real mouthful of wine, and some of them can be quite big, they can take oak, they can age. Saint Laurent is almost like Pinot Noir. Now, if you mix those 2 grape varieties together, you get Zweigelt. There you go. So, let's try this. This is unfiltered Zweigelt, beautiful colour. What do I like about Zweigelt? I like sour cherries. I don't know why. It's one of those flavours you don't come across very often. And cherries, both in the wild, are so seasonal that you can only look forward to them for a short period of time every year. But also, artificial cherry is revolting. So I kind of don't taste cherries that often. And this is fantastic. The smell of cherries that you get off this wine. It's sort of inky, almost smells like elderberries. You know the red berries you have on an elderflower bush when it's in fruit. If you squeeze them, there's a smell that's almost bloody. It's kind of iron rich. It's like a hint of rust in the background in a really nice way. Okay, so when you smell this wine, you've got this really deep, lovely, inky red. There's a great variety, a wine that I've mentioned on this show, I think it was in my picks for last Christmas, called Marciac from the south of France, which I absolutely love. It's just the perfect, quaffable, all year round drinking red. This wine smells precisely like that. Wow. Well, I would never have known it was Austrian. I'm looking on the back. It's saying it's only 11% alcohol. It's from 2020. And this wine, judging by the colour, the playful nature of the bottle, this is clearly designed to be drunk very young. There's definitely no sulphur in this wine. Let's call this Austrian Beaujolais Nouveau, shall we? That's pretty much the kind of wine this is. This wine's under £15, which makes it a very good value for money, I think. But this wine's crunchy, juicy, inky, playful. It'll be just as good with fish and chicken as it would with ham. Maybe like a jambon persillade French, something like that. It'll be absolutely delicious. Yeah, just chicken pâté. So there you have it. 5 biodynamic wines, all under 20 quid, all with a really good reason to be in the lineup. I think they've done a fantastic job of sourcing these wines. Really nice to try the Slovakian wines. Pick of the crop for me, I just love this. This white wine was so delicious. I could finish that in a heartbeat. So, well done. Yeah. See you next time.